Mr. Carter, how long has it been since we've been on Facebook?
Long, too long, too long. It is great to be back. Great to be back. How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been missing you. Every time I turn around, you're going on a vacation somewhere. You jet setting across the world.
Well, it's not necessarily a vacation, but I did have to go support my little ones. They were in a dance competition in Orlando, so we just got back from that yesterday. So it was
Mhm.
nice. It was nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to support the family, support the kids, man.
it's all about the
Gotta
kids. It's
do
all about the family and the kids.
it. It is.
Speaking of which, I guess a couple of weeks ago I was in Jamaica, so we both have been traveling a little bit. So I guess we get a pass for not doing our podcast in a few weeks, right?
Absolutely. You know what the bad part about taking those vacays is you got to come back and try to play catch up. It's not
Exactly.
fun. It's
Exactly.
not fun playing catch up. So, but we're back, sir. We're back, and we got a great topic today. We're gonna not gonna hold everyone not too long, but we're gonna talk about rent versus buying, right, Sterling?
Rent versus buying. Yeah. When is the right time? Is it, should you do it at all? And what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So I know that we're big proponents of buying a home as soon as you possibly can. But there's obviously right now we were talking about this earlier, so it's a seller's market. So houses are flying off the shelf, but it still may be a good time to buy if you're renting. So anytime you're renting, you're throwing money away. You're giving money away. You're not building into your asset. You're not adding equity. And it's been said that a home is the largest asset that most people will ever own.
You're right about that, Stephen. When you talk about building wealth and even generational wealth, one of the key things that we can do to help build generational wealth is to buy a home and pass that home down to our siblings, right? And so
Right.
it puts them in a better position and better advantage, so that they are a little bit further ahead than we were. So spot on, Steve. Spot on. It's all
Well,
about.
but Buster, like I gotta just controversial. I gotta ask this question. So both you and I were out in the dating scene at one point,
Mhm.
and we knew these guys that of course having a nice car
Uh-huh.
was a nice way of a nice introduction, if you will, to a young lady that was trying to see if you were worthy of her acquaintance, right? And
Right.
so we would have friends that would drive a Mercedes Benz, but still live in an apartment or stay at their mother's house or whatever. But they were trying to give the facade that they had a lot going on because they had this very nice depreciating asset that they were putting their money into, right?
Exactly, exactly. So their presentation was really nice at the club, right? Until you had a second date or a first date, and you find out very quickly they're still staying at their parents' home or staying. They have roommates. They're staying in a 3 bedroom flat, whatever, a real apartment. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they never really want to take you to the house, right? So they're like, okay, no, let's go to dinner. No, we'll go to your house. We'll go to your place. No, we don't. No. Right now, it's not clean. It's not clean right now.
exactly.
But
So
that
it's
the
either
car,
that it's either that or they have a girlfriend at home, right? They just don't want
one of the
they
two,
don't want to know about this.
one of the two.
Other
But I read an article, Sterling, and it said that the wealth of a person that owns a home is typically 40 times greater than a person that does not. Just
That's
think
deep.
about that.
That's
That's
deep.
huge, right?
That's
It's
huge.
huge.
That's huge.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's jump into it. Rent versus buy. Rent versus buy.
Rent
What do
versus
you think?
buy. Our first topic is the cost of the keys. The cost of the keys. So what we mean by cost of the keys, of course, is that if once you get the keys, you can have either or. You can have a set of keys that you're renting, basically meaning you're in a space that you're renting, or you're in a space that you're buying, and there is a cost, regardless of which direction you go. Even though we talked about how building generational wealth is important to have your own home, and how that's one of the most important things that you can do, and we definitely think you should do it. But you should also understand that there's some costs that come with that, right? So a few of the things that we want to definitely make sure that you're aware of is that when you're getting ready to buy a house, number one, you have to have good credit. You have to have a good credit score. because if not, your interest rate is going to be pretty high if you even qualify. But it's going to cost you a lot more to own a house if your credit score isn't where it needs to be. Also, depending on the times that you're in, right now is actually a pretty good time to buy because interest rates are relatively low, right, Stephen? But if they're high, you may want to reconsider that because the cost for those keys is going to cost you a little bit more. But then there's all the other crazy stuff that comes into buying a home that we'll talk about a little bit later as far as maintenance is concerned. But what other expenses are there, Stephen, that people have to work?
Well, yeah, you definitely have to be aware of closing costs that you need to have to close the loan. There are the deposits that you'll need if you are buying a home in terms of electricity, utilities, turning on and off. But one of the good things is that a lot of people are aware, some people are not aware, that there are first-time owner programs, incentive programs that are for people that are buying their first house. And so, a lot of times you can get the closing costs waived, or you can even, come to a situation where you don't have to come up with a deposit, right? And it's zero deposit kind of loan. So a lot of times we kind of, steer away from buying a home because we think that we can't afford to or we can't qualify. But there are a lot of creative programs that are out there. And I tell you what, there's a lot that's going on now, even more so with the new administration, where they're trying to look for ways to kind of equalize the wealth gap between different ethnicities and backgrounds and things of that nature. So they're doing a lot more programs to try to make it more affordable for everyone to go after the American dream, right? To have the house with the white picket fence.
And so you bring up a good point in regards to cost and making it more affordable. If you think about it, guys, when it comes to buying a home, typically the average home loan is for a term of 30 years. And so you may be paying $2,000, $2,500, $1,800, I don't know, per month on an apartment. Whereas when you actually buy a home and you amortize that over 30 years, you may be surprised. It may cost you only $1,300 per month to buy versus being in a high-rise apartment complex. So it's definitely some benefits. Love it, love it, love it. But with those benefits comes a little bit of headaches, right? Because the great thing about having an apartment is that you don't have to worry about maintenance. If something breaks down, and the toilet stops working, you just call the management company at the apartment complex and they come out and fix it. Well, when you own, that's your responsibility. So anything that breaks down in your home, you're responsible for. You have to cut the yard. You have to make sure you maintain the home. If a hurricane comes through or a flood comes through, which we get quite often here in Texas, right? And your house gets flooded, you got to pay. Hopefully you have flood insurance, but if you don't, or even if you do, you still have to pay the deductible in order to get those things fixed. So there's definitely some costs that go into owning your home, right, Stephen?
Absolutely. And the kind of workaround to some of those issues, especially like, for instance, if you are a single person and you've not really had to maintain a home before, and maybe especially maybe some of our single females, not all single females, some are very, very resourceful and you can cut their own grass and things of that nature. But if you don't, then going the route of a townhome or a condo may be something that's where you're still getting ownership, but you don't have all of the external repair and maintenance issues that Sterling just mentioned. So there's definitely routes to getting ownership and even minimizing the maintenance that's related to that, just so that you can get a part of the American pie, if you will, and get an appreciating asset. So definitely something to look into.
Good deal. So let's say hi to a few people, Stephen, while we're on, and then we're going to do a couple of polls, try to get everybody engaged here. But just want to say hi to Simone Thomas Tate, one of our good friends from school, from college.
Absolutely.
And I want to say hello to Reva. Reva's out there listening in. Mina Morgan says carport. She gets it. You get those guys out there and they have a really nice car, but that's about it. and Avery, our cousin, who is a expert in real estate, and we should have him on as a guest sometime soon to talk a little bit more about real estate. Avery Taylor. So what's going on, cousin?
Yeah, Avery Taylor, aka Gangster Realtor, right?
That's right.
I love his handle, right?
His
brand. Very,
yeah,
very sharp real estate guru in the Houston area and beyond. So if you're looking for your home, for your first home, definitely give Avery Taylor a call.
I'm just trying to figure out how he sells any homes, because every time I see pictures of him, he's on an island somewhere. I mean, when are you working, Avery? I'm just saying.
He's working smart and not hard, right? So he's got a team of people that, when you get big like Avery, you got a team. You don't have to do it all by yourself. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, but poll real quick, Stephen. We want to know how many people out there are actually homeowners versus renting. We want to just kind of do a poll and see how many people out there actually believe in home ownership, and how many people decided they don't want to do that. Because one other point, Stephen, that we didn't make is that owning a home is a long-term investment. So depending on your situation, you may decide that renting is better for you, because maybe you're not planning to be in the city or in the place where you are for a long period of time. So there are some reasons why you may just want to actually rent, but we're big proponents of owning if at all possible.
Yeah. So we got some people that are jumping in. TK Morgan, she's the owner. Still, she just bought this baller house.
I know. The big man.
We haven't got an invite over to the house yet. I mean, I was hoping dinner party.
Exactly.
But we didn't get that invite yet. But it's all good. The year's not over yet. I know it was COVID last year. We're gonna give her a pass for that.
Exactly.
And then Simone is a homeowner as well, of course. And then Avery Taylor. So there's levels to this, right? So there's those that own one home, and then there's those that own multiple homes as an investment vehicle, rental properties, Airbnb. So we definitely want to talk about that, but definitely shout out to Avery, who is not only a real estate agent, but he's an investor as well.
Exactly. And Mina, she's chimed in. She says she's a homeowner and considering selling. That's a really good point, Mina. Right now, now's the time to sell. There is a very, very limited supply of houses right now and a huge demand. So houses right now are going for premium prices. So it's a good situation if you have a house and you're thinking about selling. So it's a great point there. So,
and Sterling, we were talking earlier about the southern migration that's happening now. So I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine who spends a lot of time in New York, and they were talking about how dilapidated some of the areas that have been much more conservative as it pertains to COVID-19 and opening up and things of that nature. And so when you go to New York and you go to some of these other places, it really is still devastated. They're still opening up. And even though they're opening up now, so many businesses and restaurants and things of that nature have closed. And a lot of people are just moving to the South. They're moving to Texas. They're moving to Florida. They're moving to Georgia. And so right now, Houston, Dallas, Austin, these areas are super hot. So if you have a home and you're thinking about selling, now is the time to sell for sure. But if you're trying to buy a home of your own, you just got to be very careful. You're gonna have to. It's gonna take a little bit. You're gonna need a good real estate agent to help you find the right home right about now.
So spot on, Steve. Spot on. It is crazy out there. So if you are going to get into the market of trying to buy a house, just be ready for it. There's a great article on CNN or online on CNN. They had talked about the real estate market right now, what's happening. So that came out this weekend. But we're getting some great feedback in here. So TK says she's not a baller. We don't believe you, TK. That's not the case. Krishna Brown, she says she's a former homeowner and might buy after the pandemic seller's boom. Not a bad idea. The only thing that may affect that is that the interest rates are starting to go up. So it may be something to consider. TK says that always said some feedback for some reason. I don't know what's going on. But Dad always said owning is like cheap rent. You get your money back after you sell. And Avery says it is most definitely a seller's market. And then Mina says, I'm 52 with a college daughter living by myself. I heard something in the attic and have seen too many snakes outside. LO. I'd rather live in an apartment, hence the consideration of selling in the market. I tell you what, snakes are out right now. I keep seeing
Yes, they are.
seeing all these pictures and everything of people posting the snakes and the crocodiles and all that kind of good stuff. Everything's out. So that is so true.
Hey, Sterl, I wanted to talk a little bit about just real quick. We were talking about how some people, obviously, really what happened since the housing boom, not too long ago, and some of the things that have happened in our economy, it is much harder to get a loan, a mortgage loan than it has been in the past. And generally speaking, you really need to have at least a 600 credit score, but really you're looking at a 650 or a 700 credit score to really be able to get a nice mortgage loan and things of that nature. But there are homeowners that will do a owner finance kind of purchase or a lease to buy option. I know that one of my rental properties, I did an owner finance with my renter who had been in the home for about 10 years. They ended up buying it from me as an owner finance deal. I added a little interest on it, but they actually saved money versus going through a mortgage situation. And it worked out, right? So we've even had, Sterl and I have a friend of ours, we talk about Airbnbs. We got a friend of ours who is really savvy in Airbnbs. And basically what he's doing is that he's leasing homes and then he's doing Airbnb with them in order to generate revenue off of it. And he's also still has a lease to buy kind of option with the people that he's leasing from. So he's generating revenue while he's leasing the property and with the intention to buy. So there's a lot of creative ways to get it done, right, Sterling?
There's so many different ways. There's really not an excuse to not buy. I mean, if you really want to own, there's an opportunity for you to own. There's so many different programs out there. So, and we encourage it. I mean, the numbers are pretty significant. Stephen, what do you say? 40 times more wealth or more if you own a home versus not own a home. So that's great. That's really cool.
I tell you, when we keep seeing, your neighbors that move out and goes to another home, the bigger home, and you see these people like, well, how are they affording these large homes? The way that they're affording it is that when they bought their first home, they stayed in there for 5 to 10 years. They had equity in that home. They used that equity to pay the down payment on the next home, and they use that equity to buy the next home. And every time you upgrade, you get a larger home. And you're not essentially paying any more money because you have the equity from your first investment that is just continuing to grow. There's no other safer investment than real estate. And I mean, the big guys that are really making a ton of money always have a real estate portfolio.
You're preaching. Now you're preaching right now, Stephen. I love what you're talking about. When you're talking about buying that first house, holding on to it to the point where you build up enough equity to pull that equity out so you can invest in something else. And so you keep buying and buying and buying. Before you know it, you have 5 to 10 properties, that you own, and you're not pulling any more money out of your pocket. You're basically just using the equity out of the homes that you own. I love it. So Steve, I just found a really cool little tool here I never knew we had before, so I can show the comments on here. So she says the cost of material to build a home has increased. Buyers are spending $30,000 to $100,000 over asking price. I'm curious, at some point, once the market levels out, will the buyer lose in the end? That's a really good point, TK. That was one of the things I read in the article from CNN. The writer, the editor, was saying that he recommended that you pay $100,000 in cash over the sale price on the home that you're looking for. So say, for example, you have a $500,000 home, you're going to offer $500,000 plus give them $100,000 cash in their pocket. I was like, I need to be selling my house right now. This is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So spot on. So Katrina says she says she's following. There we go. Our cousin Keith says real estate is truly a great investment. What's going on, Keith? my greatest investment was the property I bought in Hawaii. I'm sure it was, Keith.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants to live in Hawaii.
And speaking of which, Sterling, that brings up a topic, and we got to talk about this for our listeners, because I want to tell you guys that owning a vacation home. So we're talking about now about purchasing your first home, having your primary residence to be a property that you own. But then we've also talked about rental properties, right? And trying to use that as an investment. And one thing to say about rental property, Sterling, is that a rental property doesn't show up as debt on your credit, if you will, right? Because that's really an income generating. So it offsets the debt, and it looks like it's actually an increase in your income. That's the beauty about a rental property. But the other thing is that vacation homes. So because of the whole craze with Airbnb, and even before Airbnbs, this has been a thing, but you can buy a home in Jamaica, where Sterling went to, in Orlando, in Denver, or whatever, and your vacation home can pay for itself by using Airbnb and Airbnb in and out. And so in that case, you're not necessarily using it to make money for yourself. You're just using it to invest and be a free vacation home for you to go to with your family and your loved ones whenever you want to. So, you basically keep it rented out 11 months of the year. 1 month of the year you reserve for yourself. Let's get these vacation homes, man. It's a hustle. Yeah. Everybody can have a vacation home if you get the right home in the right place.
Exactly. And wouldn't it sound great to say, hey, I'm going to my vacation home in Jamaica or in Hawaii or whatever, and Absolutely. To know that you're really not even paying for it, you're having somebody else pay for it. It's being paid for through Airbnb. Come on, people, let's think. Let's do this.
Make this money work for us. Sterling, we're trying to make money when we sleep, Sterling. That's exactly. Can everybody? We all want to make money while we sleep. That's the whole goal. That's what we're trying to get to.
Let's work smarter, not harder, people. Let's make this happen. And we preach this all the time. So at the end of the day, buying is just the way to go. Owning is an asset. It's an appreciating asset. It is an appreciating asset. Anything that you're doing, if you're renting, it's not going to work for you. If you're investing your money into a car, it's a depreciating asset. It's not where you want to go. Invest your money where it's going to make money for you. This is what you want to do. Now is the time. So, Steve, we got on a roll here. I guess we should go back to our next topic, our last one, which we're already talking about it, wealth impact. So the impact of home ownership on your overall wealth is just huge. We've talked about it. We've already been talking about it. But if you want to build your overall net worth and your net value, you need to own. It's the most important. The most important thing you can do is a key step, and then the rest after that is just gravy, as they say. Steve.
Yeah, sure. And so I got a shout out to Angela Ware. So certain people that we have met going to college and through our lives that are just huge, just smart investors. So Angela has basically she purchases rental properties all the time, and she's purchased 2 rental properties, and she basically said that she's going to give those 2 rental properties to her nephew and her niece when they graduate from college. She's bought that rental property. She's using that rental property to pay itself off. So by the time that they graduate from high school, the rental property will be paid off. And she's then gifting those properties to her niece and nephew in order to start them off in the right track of having their own income being generated through these rental properties, debt free. They basically assume an asset that will continue to create revenue, and it's changing the economic trajectory of these kids' lives at 18 and going forward. So shouldn't we all, right? Wouldn't that be, when we talk about a graduation gift, right? Sterling, I know you have Gary is about to graduate here in a few weeks, and others, we see them all over Facebook. They have kids that are about to graduate from high school or getting close. But wouldn't it be nice that instead of giving that person a car, that we gave them a house? Exactly. And we said, this is your first asset that we're giving to you, and we want you to manage this house, and then we want you to create wealth for yourself by buying more and more rental properties. Wouldn't that change the game?
It was absolutely amazing. Speaking of Angela Ware is just my freaking idol. And hopefully she's listening right now. I don't know if she is, but I remember this is years ago, Angela Ware story. And for those who don't know Angela, she is one of our classmates from Langston University, the illustrious, amazing, the Langston University. But I remember talking to Angela Ware, this was probably 10 years ago, and we were talking about making an impact and a significance in this world. And I remember her saying that her impact in this world, she wants to know that she was significant enough where her name is on a building. And because that just shows the amount of significance that she's done, the value that she's provided to the world and to the community. And I thought that was just spot on. You know, a lot of people just want to own their own house or just want to, you know, have a really nice car. But when you have an actual school or a building or something like that that's named after you, that means that you have been significant in this world. So since then, that's kind of been my goal too. So Ware, you were my motivation in regards to being significant. So I love the gifting idea as well. So
no doubt. A lot of good comments. So you want to read through a few of those comments?
Yeah. I love this whole little option here. So they're just coming up. So TK says a home and a whole life insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have that as a graduation gift.
Absolutely.
So true. Michelle Fuentes, hey Michelle, what's going on, sis? I haven't seen Michelle in a long time, so hopefully you're doing well. Corey Field says generational wealth, is this what it's all about? Yeah. And Kristen says, how about that? Let's see here. Stephen Bobino says beginning of generational wealth. That's it. It's all about generational wealth. Gifting idea, great comments on that. Just kind of jumping around. Corey Field says he agrees. Oh, and this is a great comment from Avery. I don't even know about this one. He says buy it in a 1031 exchange and pay no tax on the income. So Avery, we have to get you on so you can tell us a little bit more about the 1031 exchange because you're dropping out. I love it.
No
Good.
doubt.
Even though we're 26 minutes here. Great conversation. Thanks everyone for your engagement.
Absolutely.
Steven, you wanna take us home? Any final notes you wanna say before we get out of here?
The only thing we want to say is that we hope that the reason that we jump on and have these podcasts is just to try to share information with our community and with our constituents, and hopefully pass on some nuggets that will help everyone to be smarter or more effective or more diligent in what they do. We definitely don't know it all, so we appreciate those that have jumped on and shared comments and shared input. And if you like it, if you like this podcast, please like the podcast, please share the podcast with others. This help us continue to grow the community. So we appreciate you guys logging on.
And speaking of that, Stephen, we are on YouTube. We're also on iTunes. We're pretty much on all the major podcasts. We're trying to take this thing to the next level. So please chime in, tell your friends about it. We're usually on every Monday around 12 o'clock. So we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.
Peace.